Let's get to our top point. It's Wednesday. We start to look ahead on Wednesdays and we start to figure out what the NFL looks like. And the fact is, one of the toughest teams to figure out what they look like is the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Lamar Jackson did not practice on Monday on the hamstring injury. We had Frank Schwab do his power rankings yesterday. We argued about where everybody has the Ravens because everybody presumes Lamar is going to be fine. Well, he hasn't suited up since his hamstring injury, as you see there on September 28th. And now it's starting to get just a little bit nervous for all of this because we don't know yet if he's going to practice. We don't know when he'll get back. But if you're expecting him back to be against the Bears, you got to understand there's still hurdles that have to be jumped here. And the further we get into this thing, the more desperate it feels for the Ravens at this point, does it not?
100%, because you're getting to a point of no return. I don't think we're there yet. We had Frank Schwab on yesterday for his power rankings, which of course you can find on the Yahoo Sports YouTube page. And he said, I think that in December, we're going to be talking about the Baltimore Ravens having such a locked up position in the division that we're not even gonna, we're gonna laugh at a time when we thought the Ravens might not make the playoffs or might not win the division. And I get that. We're still in a position where the Ravens can absolutely scratch and claw their way up atop the standings. But they've won one game this season. They are now 1-5 on the season. And the point of no return is getting closer and closer and closer. And I don't think that the Ravens can scratch and claw away from the point of no return without Lamar Jackson. He's not a two-time, could have been three-time MVP for nothing, because I view MVP as you take this player away and it's a completely and entirely different football team. And that's exactly what Lamar does for the Baltimore Ravens. So I don't know when Lamar is going to come back. For Ravens fans' sake, for all of our sake, I hope that it is sooner rather than later. But if it is later, then things are starting to get incredibly uncomfortable for this Ravens team. The Ravens cannot win enough games that it's going to take to win the division and make the postseason without Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, no Lamar, no shot. This is very simple for me. Like the conversation we need to have about the Ravens every single week and for the rest of the season is very simple. No Lamar, no shot. And I don't think that that's necessarily some great indictment on the Ravens and the way they're built. I think, frankly, if you took Patrick Mahomes out of the Chiefs for an extended period of time, they would probably suffer to some level. Even more so, I think if you took Josh Allen away from the Buffalo Bills, they would probably suffer. Like losing your MVP caliber candidate is the type of thing that typically derails the season. That's not a hot take. Where this gets interesting, though, is the Baltimore Sun. The Baltimore Sun, the newspaper out there, released an article on Monday that featured the thoughts of 25 anonymous players. The article touched on how losing to the Bills impacted the team mentally. It spotlighted criticism of both coordinators, even mentioned how recreational distractions like ping pong tables and video games were removed following the Chiefs' loss. And here's the thing.
Not the ping pong tables.
Yeah.
No.
The dreaded ping
The
pong tables are gone.
horror.
I do think years ago, a buddy of mine that was a very successful beat writer for a long time said that there's a breaking point for every team. And the breaking point is when you go into save yourself mode. The minute you start saying, hey, I'm doing the best I can. There's only so much I can do. I'm just running the plays that are called. Once you go into save myself mode, the season is lost. And that has stuck with me for my entire career. That moment, that thought. They're not quite there because it's not public. But to me, Caroline, when you have 25 anonymous players just going out there and loudly you-know-whatting all over the coordinators, the play calling, the inability to get more out of this team, that is about as close to the ledge of save yourself as you can get. That does have me concerned with how people, even in the locker room, view the rest of this season.
I always say the culture's really easy when you're winning because that's your culture. You have a winning culture. Culture's difficult when you're losing. And that's when culture is important, is when you are losing. And the Baltimore Ravens are losing. They're 1-5 on the season, like I said. So that's when culture is really tested. And it looks like right now, the Ravens don't have a very good culture. Whenever I hear a couple of things, one, players only meeting, I'm like, uh-oh, wave the red flag, because players only meeting, it can never be a good sign. It can only go downhill from there. Very rarely can you turn your season around after a players only meeting. And then whenever I hear reports of no phones in the locker room, no ping pong tables in the locker room, those kinds of things, like the punishments that you give your 13-year-old child whenever they're talking back, that's when I feel like, oh gosh, like things are starting to go absolutely off the rails. But the critiques of the coordinators, I find fascinating. The critiques of Zach Orr, like, I understand that. I still think it's crazy that players are openly, now with anonymity, but openly criticizing their coaches and their coordinators. But set that to the side. Criticizing Zach Orr, I understand. The Baltimore Ravens have one of the worst defenses in the National Football League. I believe statistically, they are 30th in the NFL in yards given up per game. Like, the defense is terrible. The defense was terrible before they were hurt, and the defense is even worse after they've gotten incredibly injured. But what I don't understand is the Monken criticism. Because the Ravens had the number one offense in the league last year. Statistically, they were top 3, top 5 in nearly every single offensive statistic and category. This year, yes, the offense is a far cry from what it was last season, but Lamar's hurt. Like, there are reasons, there are justifications that you can make for why the offense is not humming or quickly or humming as much as it was last season. And I think offensively, I can point to a few things, a few reasons why the offense doesn't look as good. Not only just Lamar Jackson being banged up, but they've had a turnover problem. They've had a ball security problem. How much is that Todd Monken's fault? And how much is that just poor execution on behalf of the players?
Yeah, I think all of this speaks to also what do we think of any coach when they lose their starting quarterback? I know that this isn't what Ravens fans want to hear, but realistically, so often we love coaches and then coaches lose their quarterback and like, oh wow, it didn't look quite the same without that superstar back there behind center. Like, there are certain quarterbacks.
Crazy how that happens, isn't it?
Like, it's amazing. It's electric. We talk all the time about, the quarterback and the offensive coordinator need to speak the same language, but they also need to be at some level of comparable talent. Like, there is no way that you can look at the quarterback position for the Ravens right now and feel like it's fine when you don't have Lamar Jackson on the field. And this is why Ravens fans hear me. I see it. We see the chatter on social media. We have Ravens fans that work with the show. I hear the chatter that, oh my God, this is off the rails. Harbaugh's got to go. I will remind you that as we sit right now today, John Harbaugh's record with the Baltimore Ravens is 173 and 109. All right. If you include the postseason, it's 186 and 119. I'm telling you, my guy has won a lot of football games. I'm telling you right now, the facts you may not want to hear. Like, I don't put logic into my takes or facts, feelings into my takes. I only put logic, right? And the logic here says this. The Ravens could lose every game for the rest of the season. The Ravens could simply have one win when it's all said and done this year, and Harbaugh's not going anywhere. If your wish is a new coach, and I don't understand why it is, but if that is your wish, I'm just telling you, you aren't getting what you want this year. It's not going to be under the Christmas tree. So at some point, you better look at it and say, how do we fix it, right? Because there's nothing that can happen for the rest of the season, especially when you lost your starting quarterback. Now, tell me that you've got Lamar out here all year. The whole thing has gone off the rails. Players are revolting. People are speaking in the media in weird ways. I still think you get another year, even if all of those things were happening. But what we're talking about right now is a Ravens team that's decimated with injuries and losing games. And this is where everybody says, well, I don't care. Other teams with injuries are winning football games. Okay, that doesn't really matter. Like, not everybody's reality is your reality. So Ravens fans, hear me. You've got a coach that's won a lot of football games and a quarterback that has done historic things. You're going to be fine. You just might not be fine this year if you don't get healthy. And if you do get healthy, guess what? You're still going to be fine. Like, Ravens fans want to panic right now, and I'm just literally laughing. There is nothing to panic about. Either you have your quarterback and you're going to end up in the playoff conversation, or you don't and you won't, and it's that simple.
I always tell a cautionary tale to any fan of any team that has been consistently in the conversation, that they've gotten so frustrated over not getting over the hump that they just want to get rid of the coach because that feels like the easiest person to blame. And that you just, maybe things you feel like have just gotten so stale that you need some sort of freshness. But let me tell you, there is no guarantee that that next coach is not only just going to meet the level of success that you're at, but will exceed the level of success that you're at. For all the college football junkies out there, I think Gus Malzahn is the perfect cautionary tale. Gus Malzahn at Auburn could beat Alabama, but couldn't beat Alabama enough. Gus Malzahn won a lot of games, but just didn't win enough for Auburn. So Auburn said, we're better than this. We could be better than Gus Malzahn. Moved on from him, and since then, Auburn has been a laughing stock of the SEC and has been irrelevant in all of college football. John Harbaugh, it is almost guaranteed will keep you in the playoff and in the Super Bowl conversation. Why do you want to move on from that? If this year is a lost year because the injury bug has bitten you so much that it's just too much to overcome, I get it. That's frustrating, but that's not a Harbaugh problem. If you start to have year over year over year of piecing together losing seasons and falling short of expectation, then sure, yeah, we can have a Harbaugh conversation after that point. But at this point, I don't think it's fair to say that Harbaugh is the root of any sort of issues going on in Baltimore, because I look at the Ravens schedule. Now they have the Bears this weekend. Look, if Lamar's not playing, if Lamar's not 100% healthy, the way that the Bears have looked, I don't know if they win that game. But they still have one matchup with the Browns left. They've already beaten the Browns. They already have one divisional win. They have two matchups with the Bengals and two matchups with the Steelers. And those should be, if all goes according to plan, when Lamar Jackson is back and healthy. So there's still very much so a clear path paved for the Ravens to win this division and to get into the postseason. I think everything that the Ravens want to achieve is squarely ahead of them. But if things are as bad behind the scenes as players are making it out to be, then forget the fact that you're playing the Dolphins and the Vikings and the Browns and the Jets and the Bengals and some of these crummy, crappy teams upcoming on your schedule. If you can't beat the bad teams, then things are going to be so much worse than any of us anticipated, and things will be worse than what it sounds like it is behind the scenes right now.
Just remember, winning fixes everything, and it'll fix everything in Baltimore for everybody.
The ultimate
All right,
deodorant.
coming up, we had a huge night. God, those rings were elite. OKC got their rings, and they get a win. We'll tell you about the opening night in the NBA next.
What's up, Yahoo Sports Daily? It's Dan Titus, and here's what happened while you were sleeping on NBA opening night. The NBA is back on NBC, and man, that presentation was great from start to finish. That was exactly what the NBA needed, and fans were treated to a double overtime thriller between the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Rockets led for most of the game thanks to a monstrous performance from Alperen Şengün, who dropped 39 points with 11 rebounds and 7 assists, even delivered a career-high 5 three-pointers. Kevin Durant made his Rockets debut with 23 points and 9 boards, but most fans are probably going to remember that almost Chris Webber moment where Kevin Durant called a timeout in the first overtime when the Rockets had none left. Fortunately, the refs missed it, the game moved on, and that's when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander took the game into his own hands. He scored 30 of his 35 points in the second half, but sealed the game with 2 clutch free throws, fouling out Kevin Durant in the process. The Thunder edged out the Rockets 125 to 124, and a great game also from Chet Holmgren, who dropped 28 points. Now, on to LA, where the Lakers did their best to keep up with the Golden State Warriors, but fell short 119 to 109. Luka Doncic had an MVP-like performance, dropping 43 points with 12 rebounds and 9 assists. Austin Reeves added 26 points, but in the end, the Golden State Warriors' depth was just far too much. Jimmy Butler scored 17 of his team-high 31 points in the first half, and then, of course, Steph Curry had to deliver the knockout blow with a dagger three-pointer to end the game. He finished with 23 points. So, I gotta ask you guys, with the Lakers looking so dependent on Luka Doncic to put up MVP numbers and Austin Reeves, is this team really a contender in the Western Conference? It just looks like there's just too many flaws and holes in this depth for the Lakers to actually be a viable contender. Want to get your thoughts on that. Back to you.
Oh, Titus, thanks. Thanks for keeping us aware of everything. And you're right. Like, that was a big night for Luka. Should be a note. Keep an eye on that hamstring. Luka was gripping at the hamstring a little bit. We'll see what that means moving forward for him. But, you know, let's look at that question that came from Dan, Caroline. Like, do we believe that the Lakers can be a competitor in the West when they're so Luka dependent? And look, I don't think that Austin Reeves is going to be what Austin Reeves was last night, every single night. But I watched a lot of that game, and I thought it was pretty impressive how much the Lakers did stay in. Even when Luka was on the bench, the Lakers managed to hold their own in that one. I think the hardest part about this is just, if we're being honest, it's almost impossible to actually evaluate who the Lakers are until they get LeBron. Like, I'm not trying to push the question off, Caroline, but, like, let's be honest. Yes, they have one of the best players in the world. Well, if we believe that LeBron is number 2 in LA, well, he'd be the best number 2 in the league. So will this team look better with the best number 2 in the league? I would think so. Like, that's pretty damn good, Robin. So I think it's just hard to evaluate this until we know what LeBron looks like with this team and how they're going to play together this year.
Yeah, hot take. Team doesn't look as good without LeBron James. Like, it's not rocket science, people. I know that LeBron James is 100 million years old, but he's still LeBron James. So I'm with you there, that if I can start to talk myself into the Lakers being contenders in the West and say, okay, if you're getting 40 plus from Luka night in and night out, which you're probably not, but let's just go ahead and assume that we're going to get offensive fireworks from Luka more often than not. Well, you add LeBron into the mix, that opens things up for Austin Reeves. He had 26 last night without LeBron. You add LeBron into the mix, and then you're forcing defenders to have to pay attention to LeBron and Luka. That might open things up for Austin Reeves. So if you have your number 1 in Luka, your number 2, your Robin to the Batman and LeBron James, and then you have Austin Reeves as a supplementary scorer, I can start to talk myself into there being enough offensive fireworks to take down some of these big bad teams in the West, but they have to do it with LeBron. Obviously, this team isn't going to be close to its ceiling without LeBron James, but just like based off of what we saw last night, I can't say they're a contender in the West. Obviously, things are going to change with LeBron. We understand that. But on a night where Luka Doncic drops 43 and you still lose by double digits, like, the depth on this Lakers team is incredibly concerning outside of LeBron. Luka 43, Austin Reeves 26, that should be enough to get it done, but not when the rest of your starting 5 can't combine for more points than Austin Reeves himself.
It's also hard for me not to look at the first game we saw and say, okay, that's what contenders look like in the West. We saw a instant classic, if you can have that on opening night, a double overtime thriller that frankly came all the way down to the wire. I thought we might get triple overtime for the first time ever. In 2 overtimes, you see it right there. SGA was massive. Oklahoma City gets the 1-point win over Houston. What do you feel like we learned in that one?
I mean, how many opening night games do we get like that? Like, that was an absolute thriller. What I learned last night is those 2 might be some of the best teams in the West. Like, we talk about the depth of the West. We talk about how many legitimate contenders we have in the West. OKC and Houston are absolutely 2 of those. Like, if we get 2 of those or both of these teams in the postseason, if we get games like this in the postseason, if we get games like this in the Western Conference Final, like, absolutely positively sign me up for that. It was an absolute thriller, and I think it's just a peek behind the curtain of what's to come in that conference.
Look, Oklahoma City needed a minute to get used to the size for Houston, tallest starting lineup we've ever seen, right? Like they went across the board and showed that early. But the fact is, OKC adjusted. And to me, as much as I watched this game and thought, okay, yes, Houston needs a point guard, I'm just going to acknowledge out of the gates, I think Houston needs to go out and acquire a point guard that can help them, knowing that they don't have Van Vliet this year. Now that we've said that, really, to me, the statement here is, boy, if you were bored with OKC last year, get ready to be bored even more. They are willing to just move the ball around until they find the best mid-range shot and just sink it. They are willing to just be patient. They're never overwhelmed in any of it. They were down double digits early, and I thought, wow, maybe they're just going to get shell-shocked. Nope. They just work their way right back into it. They're deeper than everybody. They're younger still than almost everybody. And they have what should be more considered as the best player in the league, right? Like SGA, I feel like we have to apologize when we talk about the greatness of Oklahoma City and the greatness of SGA. To me, I watched a massive, incredible game last night that showed, to your point, how great the West is. And I still walked away from it saying, yep, Oklahoma City is exactly who they were. They are a championship caliber. Like, get ready to be bored. Oklahoma City is going to be that damn good all year long.
Yeah, and I have to give OKC a whole lot of credit. I didn't doubt they'd be able to bounce back from a championship, but I did question this team that's very young, this team that might be the same average age as a lot of college teams out there. It can be easy to be at the mountaintop, to win a championship, to now you're a household name, now you're celebrities, now you have a ring. We've seen those championship hangovers, right? We've seen it from, a lot across sports. It could have been very easy for a rather young and inexperienced team to let that championship hangover take them over. We did not see that last night, not even in the slightest. I even saw maybe even a hungrier OKC team last night than maybe we even could have seen last season. And that was a hungry and scrappy team that we saw last year. So credit to OKC for having the level of maturity, of looking like vets and looking hungry and looking absolutely terrifying to any other team in the West, Fitzy.
Yeah, and I'll go back to the matchup nightmare. Like late in the game when SGA needed a bucket, he attacked, and Houston didn't have any way to stop him from attacking. No matter how they tried to stop it at the end of regulation, at the end of overtime, at the end of double overtime, SGA did what he wanted, when he wanted, how he wanted throughout the course of the end of that game. And again, I know we spent a lot of time, this summer talking about star power because that's what we always do in the NBA. But that right there, that's star power.
I
SGA
love
right
that
there,
picture.
that joy, that ring. God, and those rings.
Find you someone that looks at you like SGA looks at his NBA Finals ring.
Yeah, impossible. Because if I had one, I would look at it the same way. There was one other really cool moment last night. Yeah. We got to hear a little bit from Michael Jordan. There was a sit-down excerpt, only a couple minutes long, but as they were talking in the excerpt in the interview with Jordan, it was really interesting to me, Caroline, because he talked about how he wishes he could take a magic pill and misses the competition and playing the game. And I just look at that, and it's a reminder we all need sometimes. Because I feel like what so often in media and fans, what we do is we sit there and we decide for athletes when it's time to shut it down. And when you see it, love it like you wouldn't believe. I wish I could take a magic pill, put on shorts, and go out and play the game of basketball today. It's what I live for. I miss it. It's your identity. It's your purpose for so much of your life. Look at LeBron. If LeBron wants to play 8 more seasons and go bounce from franchise to franchise to franchise, these moments are sort of a reminder to all of us, who the hell are we to tell him he can't do that? You love the game, and once you walk away from it, you can never get that thing back. Go out and enjoy it for every single second that you can.
Yeah, I thought that was such a beautiful human moment. Because I feel like at times the legacy and the legend of Michael Jordan is bigger than the person Michael Jordan himself. So I think hearing that just raw and vulnerable emotion from him was such a reminder that he's human, that once upon a time he was just a kid who loved the game too. That above all of the money and the fame and the fortune and the legacy and the legend of who he is and what he's become, above all of that, he just loves the game of basketball. And it's a really lovely reminder, I think, to us, people who cover this sport, and to fans of this sport, that that's all any of these guys are, any of these athletes are. They were just once upon a time kids who just fell in love with the game. And I don't remember, the years of Michael Jordan. I wasn't alive for a majority of Michael Jordan's career. I was born in 1997. So I was really, my first memories of sports were after Michael Jordan hung it up. I don't remember, NBA on NBC, but man, round ball rock that hits. It hits you, really kind of in the feels there. But above all else, of all of the times in sports that I didn't live through, whether it was, Babe Ruth or the 70s 49ers or the 60s Steelers or the Cowboys of the 90s, I didn't live through any of that. But above all of those sports moments and those great sports teams and individuals, what I lament more than anything is the fact that I didn't get to live through Michael Jordan's time with the Bulls, that I didn't get to firsthand experience the greatness of Michael Jordan. And that is one that I will, think about for the rest of my life. I'll tell my kids about how I watched Tiger Woods and Tom Brady and LeBron James, and those were all great and wonderful. And I feel lucky to experience that greatness in sports. But I do lament the fact that I never got to watch Michael Jordan.
I'm just glad social media wasn't around when I was a kid watching Michael Jordan, because we would have trashed him the way we trashed LeBron. It's crazy to me. All right, we'll continue breaking down the NBA action. Big slate tonight. But coming up next, just when you wondered who to blame for the Jets' problems, ownership told you exactly what they think the answer is. The New York Jets are planning a quarterback change, per Rich Cimini, with owner Woody Johnson weighing in Tuesday with criticism of incumbent quarterback Justin Fields. That from Adam Schefter. We were wondering who would get the brunt of the blame. In fact, yesterday on this show, we talked about what to do with certain coaching situations, and there have been plenty of people saying, well, Aaron Glenn be one and done. And you know me, Caroline, I'm ever the logical person. I've been screaming, nope, there's always a scapegoat. If you can find a scapegoat, you can figure out who they're going to blame. Well, we now know the scapegoat. The scapegoat is Justin Fields. They're making a quarterback change at 0-7. And I just can't help the fact that this feels like a massive overreaction that has so little to do with actually fixing the problem.
Yeah, I mean, look, Justin Fields isn't not the problem, but he is not the only problem. Like, you can look at this past week's performance against the Panthers and you can say, yeah, that's pretty rough. But also, every week, as bad as the Jets are, and they're bad, I feel like every single week they get worse. If it's stupid penalties or dumb turnovers or just the lack of fire, the lack of intensity, and the lack of care, I feel like that team plays with. And I do not like to question effort, because these are men who care about this sport and will give it 110% on any given Sunday. But it does look like at times there's just a level of passion that they are not playing with. And it feels like every single week it gets worse. So I can't put all of that on Justin Fields. Again, Justin Fields is not innocent. Justin Fields very clearly is not one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Justin Fields has revealed himself not to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, but it's more than just Justin Fields. And benching Justin Fields does not fix what's hurting the New York Jets, Fitz.
Caroline, I would give anything to put a microphone in front of Justin Fields and allow him to be as staggeringly honest about Woody Johnson as Woody Johnson was about Justin Fields. Woody, this is not a personal insult. I don't know you as a human being. So I just want to be very clear that I'm talking about the job that you do. Woody Johnson, you suck as an NFL team owner. You are terrible at your job. Because at the end of the day, Justin Fields was assigning you okayed. Aaron Glenn was a coach that you decided you wanted to hire, and your new GM that you hired this year was the person that you decided was right for the job. There's one consistent in the problem for the Jets, and it's not the GM, the coach, or the quarterback. It's Woody Johnson. Like, if you're going to sit there and talk about Justin Fields being terrible, then why don't you acknowledge that you're the one that okayed the contract? And if you didn't, you okayed the people that did okay the contract. Every single person that walks into that building is at some level an employee of Woody Johnson. If your company is crumbling and nobody is doing their job well and everybody sucks at what they do, at some point, you got to look in the mirror. Woody Johnson, you are not afraid to stand up in front of the press and tell everybody why Justin Fields is bad at his job. When are you going to stand in front of the press and acknowledge that you are bad at your job? You can't pick the right GM. You can't pick the right head coach. When you have quarterbacks in the room that should be able to play, your organization makes them objectively worse at their job. At some point, stop telling me what's wrong with Justin Fields and start telling Jets fans what's ever going to get any different as long as you are in charge of the organization.
Well, that's the incredibly difficult thing about a league with ownership is they can't be fired. So why would you take accountability? Why would Woody Johnson get up there and acknowledge that he's the problem? Because what does that do for him? But I agree with you 110% that there is a common denominator. When you are as miserable as a franchise as the New York Jets are, at some point the question stops being, why can't we find a quarterback? Why can't we find a competent head coach? At some point it becomes looking at the one guy that has been the constant, the one thing that has been the constant through all of the miserable years of the franchise, and that is you, the owner. That is exactly what I would say about Fitz, your Las Vegas Raiders. It's an ownership problem. That's the exact thing that I say about the Tennessee Titans. It's an ownership problem. These teams that are so bad just beyond comprehension, there is one common denominator through the turnstile at general manager, through all of the coaching carousel. It is always going to be the owner. But this isn't anything new. Like, this isn't anything that we just all of a sudden learned about the New York Jets. I mean, it was a legitimate story that came out that Woody Johnson's 13-year-old son was playing Madden and said, let's go get this guy. Like, that's when I knew for certain, oh, Woody Johnson does not have a clue. And I think that is the most demoralizing thing as a sports fan. Because you can always fire a quarterback, you can always fire a coach or a general manager, and you can bring new people in to revitalize a team. What you can't do is fire an owner. And it is incredibly difficult to overcome bad ownership. It's not impossible, but man, it's close to it.
I mean, you think about it at the core. Like, if the headline today is Justin Fields, not a high-level starting quarterback in the NFL, who's stunned?
That makes sense.
Who's stunned? Like, over the
We
course
all
of
knew
the
that.
summer, the Jets had to know. The Jets had to look around and say, hey, we're taking a stab. We don't really have a great option. We're just going to take a shot at this. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll go address it in the draft. If they'd been honest with everybody and themselves in that process, we wouldn't feel the way that we feel right now. If they'd been honest about where they assessed this quarterback and how they got to where they are, then we wouldn't feel like the sky is falling for the Jets. And Caroline, you're 1,000% right. Ownership is the problem. I want one of those AI videos. We keep getting all the my algorithm is totally jacked with AI videos of like weird Price is Right moments that never happened. I want that sort of. I want an AI moment where Woody Johnson sits down at the podium and he just says, "Well, first and foremost, let me apologize to Jets fans because boy did I blow this." Now maybe he's got the right people in the room. Maybe his GM hire and coach hire turned out to be really good, and that's possible. But if you're going to do that, then at some point you just got to look at it and be honest with everybody about where you are, where you're building towards, and what you're trying to accomplish. This whole concept that Justin Fields was going to come in and be something other than what we've seen Justin Fields be was the failed logic. So for Woody to go so loudly to the mic and proclaim this, and if you want to say, well, he's just being honest with the fan base, why not in that moment, if you're going to be honest, say, hey, we knew we were taking a reach at quarterback, but we hoped we could unlock something. It just hasn't worked for him. It doesn't work for us. We're going to move on. Like, he could have done it in that way. He didn't. He didn't do it that way. And he comes out instead, and he looks small. And this is where, like, we constantly say quarterbacks have to say the right things in every situation. And quarterbacks handle the moments the right way. And if they don't, they get destroyed. When are we going to have the same accountability for our owners? So this raises the question of, should they go acquire a quarterback right now this season? And Caroline, my God, you're only going to ruin him. Like, look, the only answer for the Jets to me is very simple. Go suck this year and just take your lumps. Just stand in the corner and get beat up and hope that you can address it in the draft. And then hope in the draft that you can put the right things around him and hope for once you can get it right. I don't think there's any move the Jets can or should make today that will save their quarterback position.
What's the point? Like, what would be the point in that? And also, didn't we just do that? Like, didn't we just go through this with the Jets? Didn't you already go and make a big swing at the quarterback position when you brought in Aaron Rodgers? And we saw how that went. So, no, there's no point. At this point, embrace the suck. You already do suck, so just embrace the suck. Get through the rest of the season. You know, you're going to have the number 1 overall pick, more likely than not. I just feel so bad for Fernando Mendoza or Ty Simpson or Dante Moore or whoever goes number 1 overall in this upcoming draft, whichever quarterback gets drafted to the Jets, I feel so bad for them because the New York Jets is where quarterbacks go to die. It really is. Like, name me one quarterback in the last 10 years of Jets history that is better off because they spent time with the New York Jets. Look at Sam Darnold. He was seeing ghosts in New York. Now we're talking about Sam Darnold as a potential league MVP. Ask Zach Wilson. Ask Aaron Rodgers. Now ask Justin Fields. And not that Justin Fields just being with the New York Jets is the reason why Justin Fields is in the position that he's in. But no quarterback is better off because they're with the Jets. All they're going to do is draft a young quarterback, number 1 overall, and then they're going to end up ruining him. And then we're going to be in the same cycle that we have been. There was a video that was kind of circulating on social media, and it was this young Jets fan, probably like 15, 16 years old, leaving the stadium. And there was a man on the street reporter like, hey, you know, tell me your thoughts about the game, and put the microphone in front of this kid. And the kid goes, I hate this team. I was born into this. I didn't choose this. I hate this team. And I get it. The feeling was palpable. I'm not even a Jets fan, and I hate this team. I hate what they've done to this fan base.
No doubt about it. From a team that needs a quarterback to a quarterback that could be looking at the NFL next year. We're joined by Cade Klubnik next on Yahoo Sports Daily. Officially halfway through the semester at Clemson University, and God, that looks beautiful. Joined by somebody now that knows that campus incredibly well. Starting quarterback Cade Klubnik. Thanks for the time, man. Joining us on behalf of Samsung. We'll get to that in a second. What's that campus that we just looked at? What's that mean to you?
Oh man, this is home. This is what I left, Austin, Texas for, 4 years ago, and moving 17 hours away for. But this is my home, and man, I love this place. This campus, the people, the culture, this football program. So thankful that I chose this place, and what an incredible last few years it's been, and wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
Yeah, I know Austin, Texas is not an easy place to leave, but everyone that I know that has spent some time in Clemson can say it is absolutely an easy place to call home. But let's get into Clemson and your team this year. You're coming off of a season last year where you won the ACC, you made the college football playoff, and I know there were a lot of really high hopes and expectations for your team going into the season. Not the start that you would want, I'm sure, but how do you, as the quarterback and the team leader, keep this train on the tracks?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that it starts with the leaders on this team, and for me, I'm a competitor, and I love to win, and I hate to lose. So I'm not going anywhere. My goal is to show up the same every single week, win or a loss, and be the same guy day in, day out for these guys, because that's what they need, and that's what this team needs, is leaders that are going to be the same people every single day. Um, so I'm going to continue to fight, and I got 5 more weeks guaranteed of college football, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to go give it everything I have, and continue to fight for these guys and for this university.
I mean, guys that cover the sport talk a lot about it. One of your great things is consistency, right? So you talk about 34 straight starts that ended over the weekend. How tough was it for you to be standing on the sideline watching the game instead of being on the field?
Oh man, it was tough. It was tough. I haven't missed a game since my senior year of high school, and then I missed 3 that year, and I didn't miss any in high school before that. So I haven't missed many games. I've been blessed to be pretty healthy. But man, I love to play. That's why you work all year to play the game, and I did everything I could to go and play that game, but my body just wasn't quite ready. And but I'm gonna continue to fight, and I'll be back soon, hopefully. So um, continue to fight for this team, and be ready. So.
Yeah, I can see it in your face. It was so frustrating. I get it, but 34 straight starts is absolutely something to be proud of. But on that point, you mentioned how you have 5 games left at the college football level. You spent one of those on the sidelines this past week. What kind of new perspective maybe do you have knowing that these next few games are some of your last ones? How do these moments maybe feel different in your final year at Clemson?
Yeah, I mean, I think really just trying to enjoy every day and enjoy every moment, enjoy every hour, even the meetings that, you've been sitting in all day and everything, just trying to enjoy every single moment. And for me, I want to leave a legacy that's long, long, after football. And I want to love people well while I'm here. And, whenever I leave here, I want to have an impact that, people will hopefully remember, hey, man, that was a great quarterback when he was here. But just the person that he was and the way that he cared for people, that lasts way longer than anything. So that's what I'm trying to do every single day and just enjoy it. So.
What are
Echoes so
those
many.
moments that you Sorry about that. Well, what are those moments that you soak up more than others? Of course, we know that Clemson has such amazing game day traditions, but what are some things going into games or just in your day-to-day life that you soak up maybe more than others?
I mean, yeah, I mean, especially this past weekend, just getting to do Tiger Walk and just experience game day and everything like that, and that was really cool, especially um, just because of the atmosphere that we always have, and that was really cool to kind of just smell the roses a little bit, and but it's that, but it's also just the random time that you're sitting at lunch with your teammates. Those are the memories that you're really going to want back. And game days are fun, but it's all the things outside of it that really make it. It's the journey to it. So just trying to enjoy all of those times is really cool.
I mean, you're attached to Clemson football. You're also attached to coach. What's the world not really know? Like, what's something about Dabo Swinney that we don't know that you get to see as his quarterback?
Oh man. Man, whatever type of guy you think he is that and even better. He is just truly unbelievable. The way that he cares for people and loves on his players so well and isn't afraid to tell them the truth. I think that that's something that is underappreciated right now in the world of college football. I think that you have a lot of coaches out there telling everybody how good you are, and sometimes it's the right thing to do. Hey, man, you need to keep getting better, but I believe in you, and let's go to work together. And he just cares for his players so much, and the way that he just puts us first in everything, and in academics and our walk with life, and he cares about the 30-year-old version of us way more than the 20-year-old version. And to have a coach that truly cares for who you are long after football is over is what really matters. And then on top of that, he's just a winner. That's what he is, and it's what he always has been. And just look at the last 17 years, all he's done is won. So, this year hasn't been the best year for us as a program, but I know that he's going to continue to fight like I am, and I wouldn't want another head coach. I can tell you that.
I mean, Cage, you got to feel the magnifying glass, right? And everybody it feels like has some opinion about the way you win in college football. So there are plenty of naysayers that say you can't win the way that coach builds a program. What would you say to that?
I mean, I just compare. I honestly I don't really care. Man, I came to Clemson to win, and I haven't won a national championship, but man, I've won two ACC championships since I've been here, and in a 17-team league. That's a big league, and I'm sure it's 17. And man, it's a tough thing to do, and Coach Swinney's won ACC championship in the last 10 years. He's got two national championships in the last 10 years. Um, to do what he's done when everybody always tells him that he hasn't done it right, he's just continued to persevere and be who he is and continues to win. And it's been cool to see him do that.
You've experienced a lot of change in college football. Your first year in Clemson in 2022,
But
NIL
again,
was so new. Yeah, it was like DJ Uiagalelei's and Dr. Pepper commercials now. Your former teammate. Now it's like, okay, players are making multi-millions of dollars. The transfer portal and the as we know it was brand new in your first year in college football. Fast forward to now, players are going everywhere. Cal and Stanford are in the ACC. It looks totally different in 2025 versus 2022 in your first year. How has that changed how you conduct your business, maybe off the field? I know on the field you still, you do your thing, but off the field and the way that you conduct your football business, how much has that changed?
I mean, I've kind of said this before out there, but I didn't grow up playing dreaming to play college football to make money. I dreamed to play college football to play college football, and that's it. And making money is just something that has happened since I've been here. It happened after I committed to Clemson and after I had decided to come here, and it's just kind of a byproduct of playing college football now. And I think that sometimes, as players, we get that put on us a lot, but we weren't even the ones that really chose it. And I'm not complaining. Um, it's interesting. It's interesting, and I think that the biggest thing to me is just keeping football first. If you go play well, you'll make money. And that's the same way the NFL is, and that's, kind of the same way life is. And so maybe not necessarily, but that's how the NFL is. And, my focus is, man, I love the game for what it is. And I love every single part of it. I love the work. I love game days. I love, a random June workout when nobody's even talking about football yet, and I love everything for what the game is, and I think that there's some players out there that love the game for what it can give them, instead of just loving it. So I'm truly a guy that just loves the game for what it is, and that's who I am. And so for me, it doesn't really affect me. It doesn't really have much of a uh, thought on my brain 24/7. So that's just kind of me, though.
Well, with that in mind, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the NFL. How hard is it for you right now? You're balancing all these different things. It's got to be in the back of your mind a little bit. How do you balance sort of what the future could be and what it could look like for you while also focusing on the right now, falling in love with the process?
Yeah, man, God's already written all that, and I'm trusting that. So I'm focused on where my feet are, and I'm focused on where my feet are, and God's got complete control of what's coming. So I'm focused on loving people well and going to win 5 more games. That's what I'm focused on right now. So that's really what it comes down to.
Now, Kid, you are joining us on behalf of Team Galaxy. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Samsung and Team Galaxy.
Yeah, super excited to partner with them, and I think that what an honor for me to be able to join with a incredible partner like that. And but I've been loving their products and everything. It's been really cool to be able to partner with them, and just such an honor. Yeah.
Is there somebody in your Samsung Galaxy right now that like your bat phone, like who you call it when you need some advice, when you need some help in life? Like who are you leaning on in that Galaxy?
Uh, Man, I got a few people. Nick Foles has always been a great guy for me that I've leaned on a ton. Westlake native, and but he's always been a really great mentor for me that I've leaned on a ton. And my high school head coach has always been something that I lean on a lot. And um, yeah, I mean, I've got a couple great guys, but those are kind of two people that I lean on a lot. So.
Cade, we appreciate your time, man. We appreciate your insight. It's been a great joy to get to watch you play college football. We're excited to watch you play some more. Wherever it goes next, we're just excited that you're joining us now. We're excited we get to watch the rest of this season for Clemson. Thanks for your time, brother.
Thanks, Cade.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right. From college to the NFL, TJ Ward going to join us next. We'll get his thoughts on a huge matchup this weekend between the Broncos and Cowboys coming up next. Welcome back to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. It's a new era of college football where anything's possible. Vandy's 6-1 for the first time since 1950. Game day headed there this weekend. Georgia Tech 7-0 for the first time since 66. Indiana's its highest ranked ever, all in the playoff mix. This is fun. That from Chris Vanini, and it really has us trying to figure out, is this the real new norm? Is parity the new norm in college football, Caroline? Because certainly new brands are finding a way to succeed, but we still have, and I should stress this, We still have brands like Ohio State. We still have brands like
Yeah.
Oregon. We still have brands like Alabama out here reminding us, hey, the old guard's not completely gone. This is just new college football.
Yeah, this is more parity than we've ever seen in college football ever. There's still the haves and the have-nots, and the teams that are, your classic typical blue bloods, like you just mentioned, the Oregons, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Georgias, like the big brands in college football are still very much so relevant. I would be 0% surprised if we ended up with an Ohio State Alabama national championship, but you have teams like Kenny Dillingham's Arizona State that were in the college football playoff last year and in the hunt this year. Indiana, Georgia Tech, like Indiana, I think has a very strong case to be ranked number 1 in the country. If you would have told me that 5 years ago, I would have thought that you were absolutely off your rocker. So I think that parity exists. We are seeing it unfold right in front of our very eyes. Like Diego Pavia to Vanderbilt wouldn't have been possible in a previous iteration of college football, but now in the transfer portal rule days, Diego Pavia to Vanderbilt is a realistic thing. But so while we've never seen more parity in the sport that we have right now, I still don't think real true parity exists. And I don't think that real true parity will ever exist in college football until we have standardized scheduling. Because right now we have some teams that are playing 7 or 8 top 25 teams in their schedule. We have some teams that are playing maybe 1 or 2. We have teams like Alabama and Florida State playing big time non-conference Power 4 matchups, like we saw with Ohio State and Texas, like we saw with LSU and Clemson at the beginning of the season. Not every team in college football is doing that. We have some teams that are playing really difficult schedules that might miss out on the college football playoff because they went 9-3 with a top 10 ranked strength of schedule, and teams that are getting into the college football playoff because they're 11-1 or 12-0 playing the 135th ranked strength of schedule. So I don't think that true and real parity exists because we don't have standardized schedules like we might see in the NFL.
Well, and that's where, look, at some point you want to talk about what needs to be fixed in college football. You just hit the nail on the head. Like at the end of the day, if we just accept that everything we've known is different in today's college football landscape, and if we accept that that's part of the beauty of the game as it goes right now, Caroline, to me, the number one thing you got to do is figure out how you're going to standardize some version of scheduling. Because, look, there's always going to be a world where an ACC team or maybe a Big 12 team one year has an easier path to the college football playoff. Like that's going to happen. But to that, I would tell everybody, look, I think it's a pretty fair statement that the Buffalo Bills have spent the better part of a decade beating up on a really bad AFC East, right? Like this year, the NFC South and the AFC South are not nearly the divisions others are. So, like at some point, we look at it and say, okay, the NFL has figured this out. There's always going to be some weakness. But when we talk about parity, like if you look at the resume stats, and this is some of the in-the-weeds stuff that the College Football Playoff Committee is told to consider. If you look at strength of resume, which is a computer metric that says how would the average top 25 team do against your schedule so far? Number 2 is Indiana. Number 3 is Ohio State. Like they're right in the middle of it. Game control, which is another metric. How did the game actually look? Ohio State's number 1. Indiana's number 2. Like to me, it's ultimate parity that I do think you're right. Indiana today, based on what they've actually accomplished, not the eye test, just what they've actually accomplished so far this season, Indiana should clearly be the number 1 team in the country. Now, this is where I think what gets difficult for the future of college football is that we all watch these games. And so now a committee, a very human committee, is going to have to watch these games and make a decision on Indiana versus Ohio State based in part on what they've done and in part on what, who they've played and in part how the games have looked and also in part on what they see every week. This is where it's going to get really dangerous, Caroline, because when the committee meets, how many people are just going to say, well, Ohio State's number 1 just because I watch football and I think they're bigger and faster and stronger. I mean, that's the world we're about to live in, a very subjective eye test world where parity creates more human element than people want.
There's no consistency in the College Football Playoff Committee, and I think that's the frustrating thing to me and to so many others. That when it comes down to it, the only thing that matters is how many games you've lost. Like we can talk about eye test all day long. We can talk about quality of loss, which I think is just like the silliest metric that we use, but it is a metric nonetheless. When it comes down to it, the team that has lost 2 games and the team that has lost 3 games, the 2-loss team will get in. We had that exact scenario with SMU and Alabama last year. SMU went 10-2 in the regular season. Alabama went 9-3. SMU got the benefit of the doubt, and the College Football Playoff Committee said, okay, it was game control. Okay, but like, also, I don't know. I watched those two teams last year, and I would say that Alabama was the better team, but SMU lost fewer games. That's at its core, the foundation is how many games have you won and have you lost. The other side of it is the quote unquote eye test. And I think the bias does come into play here in several different ways, that it's brand bias or recency bias. I had this conversation the other day. I think Notre Dame is getting better and better week over week, that Notre Dame does very much so now look like a national championship contender. And it works to their benefit that they played Miami and Texas A&M in weeks 1 and 3, because by week 13, we all will have forgotten about that. That if you lose in week 12, that is much more in the forefront of our minds than week 1 or week 2. So recency bias is a big part of it as well. But the frustrating thing to me is we can use quality wins as a metric, and I think that no team in football has a better win than Indiana has. A double-digit win at Oregon, a top 5 team at the time. There's no better win in college football right now than Indiana's win at Oregon. So what more do you need to see? So we can use that metric as a point to justify Indiana being the number 1 team in the country, which I think they should be. But then for another team, you can use eye test. For another team, you can use quality loss. For another team, you can use this, you can use that. You can use all of these different metrics. So the frustrating thing for me is the College Football Playoff Committee is not consistent, and the reasons for why they justify certain teams should be ranked in certain places. And now where you are ranked, it's not just getting into the dance. Where you're ranked matters. It's home field advantage versus going on the road in the first round. It is first round bye versus not a first round bye. Like, where you are ranked matters. And the difference between teeny tiny metrics and between human bias can be the difference between you hosting a playoff game and you going on the road when it's 15 degrees in Bloomington, Indiana in the first round of the playoffs. Those things matter. Those teeny tiny metrics make a difference.
It's hard because I've covered the College Football Playoff Committee in my career since I started at ESPN, and had the opportunity to do the mock committee a couple of times down in Texas. And a few years ago, I was doing a ranking show with A.J. McCarron, former Alabama quarterback. And A.J. got really fired up with me on that show because he kept yelling. He's like, I know football, and I'm telling you this team is better. And I kept saying, I hear you. I know the committee, and the committee's going to rank the team that you don't think belongs higher. They're going to rank them higher because that's what the metrics say. And the funny thing is, we got into the argument, and, frankly, I was right. And I was right because I think the committee is at some level, while it's inconsistent, once they've given you their initial rankings, it's predictable. Once this version of the committee tells you what they care about, you can take that, you can bank it, and you can move forward with it. And you're 1,000% right. When you lose, how you lose, where you lose. Like, I'll counter your argument on Indiana. Indiana has the best win. Oregon has the best loss in the country. Oregon losing to that Indiana team is a loss that the committee's going to turn around and say, hey, I value that loss. That's a hell of an Indiana team. Like, if you just start to look at it from that element, you can figure out where the committee's going to go. The hard part for college football fans is that the committee will always have a human element, and that human element will not always match what certain fan bases think of their favorite football team, which is why the inevitability of the human conversation will always be, yes, but this 3-loss SEC team is better than this 2-loss Big Ten team. Like, this is going to be the argument every year for the rest of time, and there's just no easy way to solve it, which is either maddening or beautiful depending on which side of the coin you want to be on and whether or not you like a human committee. I think, frankly, as much as the inevitability is eventually just automate all of the bids and just let it go out like it's the NFL, I think part of the beautiful portion of the college football process is that this, in 2 weeks, when we get the first rankings, every Wednesday, we will have a debate about what the committee did. We'll continue the college football debate here, obviously, throughout the course of the day. But we got to get to TJ Ward. He's going to join us next. We got him. He's going to come on. We'll get his thoughts on a big matchup this weekend between the Broncos and the Cowboys and everything else from his past with the team. Talk about it next. 10 years later, still Super Bowl champs. That from the Denver Broncos after an absolutely magical weekend for the Broncos. And we're joined now by TJ Ward. He's the host of the At Safety First Show podcast. TJ, appreciate your time, man. Okay, so we're going to start with a fun story. You didn't ask for a story, but I'm going to give you a fun story. That Super Bowl in San Francisco, I was in a band, and we had played the pregame show on the TV broadcast, and they brought us out on the field so that we could watch the national anthem, and then they forgot that we were on the field. So I spent the entire first half, because the people forgot we were on the field, standing like 5 feet behind you while you were kicking ass in the Super Bowl. So, look, like it's an amazing memory for me. For you, what was that like when you go back and revisit that game, that moment, like especially this weekend? What's it feel like to just go back and live down memory lane for a minute?
Man, it's amazing. It's amazing. Getting back this past weekend to see all my teammates, so many memories arose from that, 2 weeks of preparation and game week, pregame and throughout the game. So there's so many memories, man. But the biggest memory is just winning. Winning the Super Bowl and celebrating right after the game is the most rememberable and most important, right? So we got the win, celebrated on the field, confetti fell, teammates and family, amazing time.
It looked so special to be able to celebrate what was a remarkable team, especially a remarkable defense in the 2015 Super Bowl. But I know it was also an emotional day as well. Demaryius Thomas, we celebrated his life and his legacy along with that Super Bowl. Everything that I have heard about Demaryius Thomas is that he was just loved by everyone, that it was just impossible to not feel the energy and the electricity of Demaryius Thomas. What was he like as a teammate, as a person, and what was it like to be able to celebrate him this past Sunday as well?
Oh, it was great. It was great. Wishing he was here, but DT is a very selfless person. Anything he could do for others, he would do. He was rarely thinking about himself, always thinking about, what he could do to help your situation, help your family, and just be there for you. And that's what we miss most about him not being here. The funny times, the times we were working together and out on the field trying to get these W's, all those, come to mind. But if you talk to any and everyone that knew DT, it's always the personal relationships, always the smaller things that he brought to your life that made them better.
Now, you were in Denver over the weekend for a comeback at a game I don't ever think I've seen an ending quite like that. What was it like being in the building? How did that feel in that moment, the energy of watching that sort of a comeback for the Broncos?
It was amazing. It was amazing because we all watched the game and it looking like it was over and a loss for us. But, we hung in there and fans started leaving and I'm sitting in the suite like, man, it's not over. We got time. We need a turnover. We could get this done. And, the team, they pulled it out. DT was there with us in spirit. Obviously, the 33-point comeback and DT dying at 33. Numbers matter. So it was just a blessing. And the team fought hard to get that win for us and for DT in spirit. So amazing day.
At the 2015 defense, the no-fly zone, that will go down in history as one of the best defenses in the league. Who do you think has the best defense in the league today?
The Denver Broncos, hands down. They have the best defense in the league. I know this because I have the Pittsburgh Steelers on my fantasy, and they were supposed to be the top defense, and they're not the top defense because they score negative points in multiple weeks. So, no, definitely. If you have the pass rush and you can cover on the back end, get to the quarterback, you can hold a team scoreless in the fourth quarter and win the game. You're doing everything it takes to win the game. Even the tough loss to the Colts where, we were offsides, that's another win I'll take if we don't jump offside. So defensively, we're top in every category and we're getting the wins in a defensive manner. So I'd say yes for sure, Denver Broncos.
So then you've got the high-flying, amazing Cowboys offense coming in this weekend. How would you slow them down?
How you slow any quarterback down? Pressure. Pressure and get to the quarterback. You got to make Dak fluster. Dak is having a great season, and I called him as my early MVP. But you just have to get him out of rhythm make Pickens be the George Pickens from Pittsburgh and not the George Pickens from the Dallas Cowboys because he's having an amazing season so far. But, we have a guy on our side that's playing pretty amazing too, and that's Surtain. And then our front, we get to the quarterback better than any defense in the league. And getting sacks and getting Dak on the ground is going to be very important to mess up his rhythm and his confidence.
And not just Dak, but another big part of this Cowboys offense and why they've been humming so much is CeeDee Lamb. When you watch the game now versus when you were in the league, how is it different stopping and covering some of these receivers?
You know what? I'm not. You call CeeDee Lamb, but CeeDee Lamb had a bad first half and he been hurt. So I'm really gonna say George Pickens is that guy. I will continue to go to George Pickens as my number one, and I'd have CeeDee Lamb just getting what he can get at this point because we're in rhythm right now, and we don't need you coming in messing that up. I mean, he had a good game last week, but I would still have Pickens as my number one, and I target him first.
When you look back for you, like who was the guy that you couldn't wait to play against in your career?
Honestly, believe it or not, it'd be Gronkowski. The Patriots and Gronkowski, I knew it was going to probably be a big game. It's going to be on TV. He's the best guy in the league, and I always wanted to play the best guy in the league to show everybody else what I do against the best. So, Rob Gronkowski, I know people wouldn't say that. I mean, that's not a guy you want to see all the time. But for me, it was a challenge, and I know if I was successful against him, then the league would take notice.
Well, now look at the league. There are so many really good tight ends across the league. How did teams start to slow down this whole generation of tight ends that seem like they're all Gronk-inspired?
Gronk-inspired. That's a good one. No, it's funny. We were having this conversation with the DBs at the game and Coach Wade Phillips, and I always like to challenge these tight ends at the line. I don't think it's enough of that going on right now. I think they're letting these tight ends run and not getting it. They're big guys, so they're hard to stop and start. So if you can get them slowing up in the beginning, disrupt that timing, you have a way better chance. But once they get down the field and rolling, I mean, it's hard. It's like it's an 18-wheeler you're trying to stop while it's going 40 miles an hour.
Is Gronk as legendary of a trash talker as we've been told he is?
You know what? I haven't got Gronk to say one word to me. So if he talks trash or something, I don't know, but not me, man. Gronk, he really didn't say. And I like to get guys going so I could get some type of motivation to go at him back. But no, Gronk, he doesn't speak when we were out there.
Who was the best trash talker that you played against? Yeah.
Oh, the best trash talker. I mean, I don't think it was too smart to talk trash to me because I'm really would really hurt you and take the penalty for that. But I would say Pierre Garçon, he would never stop talking, and he's a tough competitor. And he was like one guy, I'd just be like, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you. But no, yeah, Pierre Garçon for sure.
I mean, TJ, I love talking to guys that played the way you played because we can learn from y'all. Like, what is something that the rest of us don't really understand? Like most of us when we're watching, you talk to quarterbacks, they'll tell you all the time, we don't really understand this route or this route. From your standpoint and from your time in the league, what's something that fans don't necessarily understand about what you guys do on the field?
That's a good one.
Thank you.
I mean, there's so many adjustments from the time the offense breaks the huddle. And I don't think that fans understand what we process in that. We're processing personnel, we're processing formations, we're processing positions in those formations. Where are the running backs? Where are the receivers within those particular formations? We're processing motions. We're processing, everything on the fly in those 35 seconds of that shot clock that you guys see, and then the ball snap, and then we have to process things on the go. When routes come, when the line is flowing a certain way, when the guard pulls, all that is calculated within a 20-second time period on the go, moving as fast as you can, having to deal with contact and all other sorts of things. So it's very hectic, and that's just one play. So a series and then a 20 play drive, it's a lot to think about.
So TJ, then from your standpoint, because this is what we always hear. We'll hear one defensive coordinator's like, oh, he's great because it's simple. He keeps the defense simple. Guys can just attack the football. And then it's like, well, it's too simple. They need somebody that comes in with complex schemes. So what is the best way to run a defense?
I think the best way to run a defense is stopping the run. Take a dimension from the offense that you know is not going to happen because you are able to stop it no matter what. Make a team one-dimensional. And if you make a team have to pass the ball, then it takes away half the battle. But if they can keep you guessing, run, pass, screen, draw, you're in a little trouble. You're in a little trouble.
I think the safety position is fascinating. There's a lot of very unique traits that a player has to have, maybe contradictory traits. Who do you think is the best safety in the league right now?
That's a good question. Who is the best safety in the league? Oh, man. I'm going to, from what I'm seeing out there in the first half of the season, I'm going to go with my dog Derwin James, man. Like consistency, they're able to do a lot, still making plays, give up a little play, but don't let it discourage you and then come up with a big play at the end of the game. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with my dog DJ, Derwin James, right here with the LA Chargers.
What makes a good safety?
Versatility. Versatility makes you a good safety. If you can play on the back end and you can play in the box, you can blitz, you can cover, you're smart, you can digress what's happening on the field, that makes you a good safety. Take coaching, be able to play all over the field, make plays, blitz, cover, take on blocks. That makes you a great safety.
All right, that's a lot of Sunday talk. Let's ask a Saturday question. How are we feeling about Oregon? We feel good about Oregon right now?
Always. Always. I always feel great about my Ducks. Always. We took a tough loss against Indiana, bounced back against Rutgers, but, it's college football atmosphere. You're going to take a loss. You're going to take a loss. And Indiana, they're going to get their loss. Ohio State probably will get their loss, but they're looking really good right now. So we just got to continue to win, do what we do, and we'll be all right. We'll be in the playoffs.
So, but talk to me about trash talking for a minute, okay? Because you didn't play in the Big Ten, but that's where Oregon is now. So on Saturdays, are you trash talking your buddies that played for Ohio State, or are you still just back in old Pac-12? Like, who are we trash talking on Saturdays?
Both. Anyone. Both. We still rep the Pac-10 on this Pac-12. And then we still do the Big Ten thing because we knew and we took up the space and we were champions last year. So we talk mess on both sides. My brother went to Oregon State. I talk mess to him because they don't even have a conference right now. And then I got buddies like Bradley Roby at Ohio State that I'm talking trash to, Penn State guys. So we're the old guys in one facet, and then we're the new guys kicking butt in the next. So it's good to be a part of two conferences. Somewhat.
No one's safe.
No one. SEC either. SEC either. I love talking trash to the SEC. Y'all have just fallen apart since it's NIL.
All right. Don't kick a girl while she's down. I know you can see the helmet behind me. But Dan Lanning at Oregon, just, from a third-party observer, I would run through a wall for that guy. From a player perspective, somebody who wore that uniform that was in that locker room, like, what is your impression of Dan Lanning as a coach and what he's done for this program?
Man, I love Dan. I go up there about twice a year, whether it's some alumni event or something special I've got invited to by coach. But no, I love him. He's super intense, and he's always like that. Even when you're talking to him away from the field, you could see his motor spinning. He's still thinking about the game, still thinking about what's up next for the team tomorrow. But you can tell by the way these guys play, man, they have a lot of respect for him, and he's bringing something out of them that's rare for head coaches, and that's why he's so successful, because he's finding a way for these guys to follow him and, give them their all. And that's hard to do, man. You got 100 guys on a team to get everything out of everyone is tough, and that would make him a great coach.
While we're talking about college, I never want to pocket watch. And look, I know that the money that you make on Sundays is different, but do you ever think about how much money you could have made in NIL?
Always. Always. I try not too much because I'm gonna get depressed. But I'm happy for these guys. I'm happy for these guys that they're getting their take. Who knows if it's truly what they deserve, but they're getting a lot of money right now at a young age. So just helping them, understand that, guide them, and help them through along this process. That's why I started this company, Player Above Sports Group, NIL for agency. And that's what I'm doing, is giving back to these kids coming up and making sure they're on the right path to be successful.
DJ, though, that's what I think is sort of lost in the conversation sometimes. Like, there was a whole era where you got drafted and you had no idea how kids were going to react to getting paid and to suddenly being professionals and to suddenly having money and clout and all of these things. Can you make the argument that in an NIL age that we're actually getting better professionals because you're starting to learn that in college? Like, it feels to me like you're better prepared for what's coming in the NFL if you're already dealing with agents and marketing and money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. At first it was looking kind of dreary because, there wasn't such education on what they were doing. But I think as these entities and schools help educate these kids and their parents on the process and what they're doing with their money, it's going to be a lot better, like you said, because they're learning early. I'm a big proponent in securing your money before you start moving it. So make sure it's secure. Make sure you as a person have everything, your X's and O's or your box checked, that, secure your money first. Make sure that your estate is together and your trust is together. And then you can start playing with it and being, investive and moving it around. But make sure it's secure and safe first.
No, that's the hill I constantly die on. Every school should just have an entire NIL department where kids
Absolutely.
major in becoming marketing kids. Like, let future athletes meet future agents in college together. Let everybody learn how to help everybody. Like, I don't understand why it's not a major that an entire school actually embraces. TJ, man, we really appreciate your go ahead, bud. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was gonna say I've been talking to a lot of GMs across the country, and they're implementing it right now. So I talked to some SEC schools, so it's coming. It definitely is.
Good.
Well, check out the show at Safety First Show, wherever you get your podcast. Yeah. TJ Ward, man, we appreciate you hanging out with us this morning. Thanks for the insight, brother.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. It was fun. Thank you.
Thanks so much,
check
TJ. Appreciate it.
Wherever you get your shows. Great stuff from TJ. All right, coming up, the Cowboys making big trades. We'll talk about it next. I think the Cowboys need to put together a big package and trade for Max Crosby. I am not saying this lightly, but when you look at this situation, think about it. Well, number one, Jerry Jones told you they want a pass rusher that can also handle stopping the run. If you haven't checked out the numbers on Max, you should. His tackles behind the line of scrimmage, his run-stop defense is highly regarded as one of the best at his position for a reason. Number two, I think Max deserves the opportunity to try and win football games. That's right, just taking a self-serving victory lap, because that's from a couple of weeks ago on this show. It's just... everybody yesterday started reporting that they were making calls about Max Crosby, and I'm sitting there thinking, what show told you a few weeks ago that should happen? This show told you that should. Now, Caroline, again, as we said at the beginning of the show, I do not think he's going to be traded. But the maths when it comes down to the need for the Cowboys and why Max Crosby would fill that need.
I will go back to, if only the Dallas Cowboys had an elite pass rusher to bolster up their defense. Oh yeah, they did. Like I knew this was going to happen the day that Micah Parsons was traded. I knew that at some point during the season, and it ended up being much earlier than I thought, we would be talking about this exact thing. If only the Dallas Cowboys had a player like Micah Parsons. It's just it was so obvious to all of us when this move happened that it was such a bad move that Jerry Jones, yet again, let his ego get in the way of the Dallas Cowboys winning football games. And here we are, the Dallas Cowboys with a championship-level offense, an elite offense, with Dak Prescott playing like MVP caliber kind of player, with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens being the perfect addition into this offense. Like, George Pickens feels like he fits so flawlessly into not just this offensive identity, but into this locker room so much better than he ever did with the Steelers, that everything is hitting on all cylinders for the Cowboys offensively, and defensively, they are trash. The Cowboys defense is terrible, and this Cowboys defense is going to waste a championship level offense, which is why, Fitz, when we hear these reports of the Cowboys potentially calling around about Max Crosby, about them being interested in players like Trey Hendrickson and Jeffrey Simmons, I think, thank goodness Jerry Jones can swallow his pride and acknowledge where his team is bad, where his team can improve, players that could potentially be on the market, good players on bad teams like Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals, like Jeffrey Simmons with the Tennessee Titans, and doing everything in his power to make this team better, to make this defense just 10% better, because it is not every day, it's not every year that you get play like you're getting from Dak Prescott. Good quarterback play and elite offenses are never guaranteed in the NFL. So don't waste it. Do whatever it takes to make this team better.
Jerry Jones needs to hire One Republic to play at all their concerts, because it's too late to apologize. It's too late. And look, at the end of the day,
it's not too late.
Everything it is too late. The fact of the matter, if the Cowboys don't win the Super Bowl this year because their defense sucks, then that means, frankly, this year that Jerry Jones has cost his team a Super Bowl. Like, Jerry Jones, if their defense is the liability that prevents them, and a pass rusher would have been the difference, you let a pass rusher walk out the door. So now what you're trying to do is chase your tail to make up for the mistake. Like, as we've said earlier in the show, and I want to echo again here, the Raiders are not going to take a small package to get Max Crosby. So if you think acquisition of Max Crosby is what you need, understand that you're essentially going to give up most of what you just got for Micah Parsons, if not all of what you just got for Micah Parsons. So you're essentially doing a Micah Parsons for Max Crosby trade, which makes very little sense to basically anybody. Why'd you put yourself in that hole in the first place? So if we're just talking about today, right now, and not the future, not where the Cowboys are building towards, the Super Bowl this year, I would make the argument that Jerry Jones, specifically, the guy that says we're all in, is the exact reason that the Cowboys aren't a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I'm the one that thinks they're still going to the playoffs. I'm the one that still thinks that this offense is good enough to win playoff games. But the defense is a liability, and that is lying squarely at the feet of Jerry Jones. Now, maybe he can go acquire Jeffrey Simmons, and that makes up for part of it. But, like, What are you doing at this point? You're going to overpay for whatever rental person that you get that's going to come in the last minute. That person's not going to be good as Micah Parsons, who, by the way, already has 5.5 sacks on this season. So, you let him walk out the door. The Packers defense is electric because Micah Parsons is there. Jerry's just trying to fix a mistake that was caused by ego. And I don't think there's anything this year that will fix that mistake.
I mean, 100%. I think we can apply that logic to the last however many years since the Cowboys have won a Super Bowl, that man is the reason why they haven't won another one. Like Jerry Jones, as long as Jerry Jones is calling the shots in Dallas, the Cowboys will not win a Super Bowl. But there's something called a sunken cost fallacy. And I think that's kind of how you are feeling. Well, you already traded away Micah Parsons, too late. Sorry. So sad. You already traded him away. But look, it's clear and obvious to all of us that trading away Micah Parsons was a miserable and brutal mistake. But you can't not make up for that. What is Jerry Jones doing? What kind of leader is Jerry Jones? What kind of GM is Jerry Jones if he just says, oh, too well, so sad, so bad. Our defense is bad. We traded away Micah Parsons. You can undo that mistake, or at least attempt to undo that mistake. And you say they're going to have to overpay. Yes, that's what you do in October. That's why Jerry Jones should have fixed this mess in February and March and April when it made sense to fix this mess. But that's over with. That's behind us. You're not going to undo what you've already done. All you can do is try to patch up the holes that you created in the mistakes that you made in trading Micah Parsons and not doing jack squat in free agency on the defensive side of the ball. You're going to have to overpay. That's what the trade deadline is.
At your very core, though, if you're Dallas, you have to admit a mistake to make up for a mistake. At some point, if the argument was, well, we can't afford Micah and do the things that we want to do, and we wanted this haul of draft picks because this haul of draft picks is going to get us to where we want to be in the future, and we have to think about the future. Jerry was just saying that a month ago. That was his selling point to everybody. He has yet to come out and admit that selling point was complete and total BS, right? And he would have to do that if he turns around and gives a bunch of that equity back to get a player like Max or a player like Jeffrey Simmons. Now, maybe they could turn around and get Trey Hendrickson for less. Maybe they can acquire somebody like Trey Hendrickson for a second-round draft pick, and suddenly it makes sense because, hey, we pocketed some picks to get some picks. But, man, I just, at some level, if you're talking about the now, well, Micah Parsons being gone has hurt the Cowboys. That's clear. If you're talking about the future, trying to fix that today will undo the only good that can come from the Micah Parsons trade, which is the future. So if you undo that good to try and get a short-term Band-Aid on something, now all of a sudden it just makes all of it look more asinine. At some point, you just got to take your beating and wait to see another day.
But why? Why do you have to take your beating when you have tools at your disposal and you have resources to get better now? Because what good are the first-round picks that you got in return from Micah Parsons if Dak takes a step back, when Dak takes a step back? You are never guaranteed anything in the National Football League. You're not guaranteed that this offense is going to be as good as it is right now and next year and into 2027. Dak's 35 years old? He's got more football behind him than he has ahead of him. So why not capitalize on the right now? You don't die with your draft picks. Use the draft picks now. And if the Cowboys when the Cowboys fall short of a Super Bowl, at least the selling point that Jerry Jones can make to his fan base is, we did everything we could. We tried. We made a mistake and we tried to make up for it. That we saw that our offense was so much better than we ever thought it could be. We acknowledged our mistake. We went out and we traded for Trey Hendrickson, and we tried to push every chip that we have into the middle to try and capitalize on what we have right now, and it didn't work, but at least we went for it. I can live with that. If I'm a Cowboys fan, I can sleep at night knowing that my owner and my general manager did everything he could to capitalize on this team right now. But if you just sit on your draft picks and say, well, we made a mistake, so we have to punish ourselves for making our mistake, and we'll just use our draft picks in 2026 and 2027 on an aging, old, and expensive quarterback on an offense that might not be good then that it is right now, I can't live with that. That's not good enough for me if I'm a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, but if you give up, I agree with everything you just said, but I also believe that if you give up everything you got, and look, a couple of people I talked to that I think are pretty plugged in around the Raiders made it very clear that the Raiders were not going to trade Max, and even if they did, any conversation around it would start around where Micah Parsons' trade was. So my question is, if we just sit here and say, okay, Jerry Jones can trade Micah Parsons for Max Crosby straight up, is he doing that? The answer is no. He's not, right? Like, so none of this, when we take emotion, this is really hard to do with the Cowboys, but when we take emotion out of all of it and just look logically, Jerry, other than the trade of Micah, which is a big other than, has typically done things in a pretty calculated way. I can't do the math that undoes the trade in a way that actually gets him a benefit. Like I said, if you're telling me that it's Jeffrey Simmons for a second-round draft pick, yes. If you're telling me that you're giving up one first-round pick for somebody, I could maybe see some of that argument. But frankly, if you're Jerry Jones and you're the Dallas Cowboys, you've gotten yourself into this situation where now you're going to have to figure out what to do with George Pickens' contract. You did a nice job of bringing in Javonte Williams as your running back, who's been much better than you expect. You've got to figure out long-term what all of these pieces look like. Still, that didn't change. That part of the equation didn't change. So if your answer was we're truly building for the future while we're trying to win right now, if that was your answer in support of the trade of Micah Parsons, none of the data we've gotten since then is so surprising that it changes that logic. Honestly, I think all of this is just the Cowboys doing what the Cowboys love to do, making sure we talk about the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think when the trade deadline comes, I don't think they're going to make a big move. I don't think there's going to be a blockbuster trade. I think the Cowboys are going to stay put, and the Cowboys are just going to try and get through this season with the defense that they have.
And waste an offense like that. Like, I think the Cowboys probably do make the playoffs, but they're not winning the division right now with how trash this defense is. So if you say we're not going to do anything at the trade deadline, then we are okay with wasting a championship level offense. And to your point about the asking price, like, look, if the asking price for Max Crosby is, let's say, even more than what the asking price was for Micah Parsons, you don't do it. You don't pay a price that you don't want to pay. If the Bengals are asking for 2 first-round picks for Trey Hendrickson, well, that's silly. You're not going to do that. You don't make a move that you don't want to make. You don't make a move that doesn't make sense. You don't make a move just to make a move and jeopardize your future because of it. You make a move that makes sense. You pick up the phone and you call. And I would say that if the asking price for Trey Hendrickson is, let's say, 1 first-round pick, do it. Do it. You got 2 in the Micah Parsons trade. You have those extra picks in your back pocket. Again, what good are those picks if you're not going to use them? So if the asking price is too high, then you don't pay it. But you at least have to pick up the phone and see what the asking price is going to be. You might have to pay for something that's just a little bit uncomfortable because we're making these moves in October, and those are the asking prices in October. It hurts me deep down inside to think about this Cowboys offense going wasted on a truly trash defense. That's going to haunt Cowboys fans, and I think Jerry Jones for a long time, if that's their path forward.
From the Cowboys to opening night in the NBA, we've got a wild slate of games, and we're trying to figure it out. What's the biggest story you should be obsessed with? We'll answer that question next. The last time the NBA had an opening night without LeBron, USB flash drives didn't exist. Chappelle's show hadn't debuted. Facebook hadn't been launched. Kelly Clarkson had just won American Idol. My God, do I feel old. And obviously last
Look
night
at
we got
that
opening nights.
baby. The baby face LeBron.
My God, I just thinking about the fact that USB flash drives didn't exist. Like Caroline, I'm just old enough because I grew up poor that I used a typewriter for my papers in high school. We didn't have the money for a computer. Like I'm just saying, like it's amazing. People don't realize how fast technology has advanced. So
Really
now
has.
that I've dated myself tremendously, let's take a look at LeBron and figure this out because today we have a massive slate of games and return of Inside the NBA. So the question is, what's the biggest storyline this season to you?
It's LeBron. It's LeBron. It is that man right there. And is that crazy? Like crazy hot take from me to say that LeBron James is the number one story in the NBA. Whoa, breaking news here. But it is. The story of the season is going to be, okay, when LeBron gets healthy, LeBron's return. Is this LeBron's last run? What can the Lakers do with LeBron? Can the Lakers win a championship without LeBron? It'll be LeBron and Luka. It'll be Bronny. What's Bronny up to? What's LeBron posting on Instagram? LeBron's going golfing. What does that mean for his future in the NBA? The story of the season, the story of the league for so long has been LeBron, and frankly, Fitzy, I don't think that's changing anytime soon. The middle of that little web of stories that will come out from the NBA is LeBron.
You're so close because it's LeBron adjacent to me. It's Luka. Because, look, whatever happens with LeBron will be about Luka. It's going to be, is this the passing of the torch? Is Luka the new face of the NBA? Is Luka going to be an all-time great Laker? Can the Lakers ride Luka to a championship? And then, if you want to take an extra element of it, there is one other thing that Luka ties in that nobody else ties in, and that's Cooper Flagg. Like Cooper Flagg, who's probably, just the most hyped rookie we can remember in a minute, let's say it that way. And is also supposed to be the reason that the Mavs were comfortable letting that player walk out the door, right? Like Mavs fans are saying, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter we don't have Luka. We have Cooper Flagg. Okay, well, that conversation could change wildly because if Cooper Flagg comes out and he's just okay, he just adjusts. I will remind everybody how much praise this show has given Wemby already. How many games has Wemby actually won, though, right? Like, it's not as simple as great rookies win games. So if while we're watching the development of one Cooper Flagg, Luka's over here winning chips, oh, man, people are going to be losing their minds. Conversely, if Cooper Flagg comes out there, it's pretty good, and then Luka's got hammy issues and just can't quite get right, and the Lakers aren't quite right, all of a sudden it's going to be the Mavs are brilliant. They knew what they're doing. Like, Luka is such a big part of the NBA storyline culture that there are tons of people wildly convinced that the lottery was fixed to get Dallas Cooper Flagg. Now, I will argue, as I have for years, if you believe that all of these things are fixed, why do you watch them? If you believe that the NBA is rigging all of it, then just watch WWE or learn to appreciate the fact that it's scripted. Otherwise, all of your conspiracy theories are trash. But realistically, Cooper Flagg, the rise and fall of Luka will be directly related to the rise and fall of the Mavericks and the level of two fan bases losing their damn mind. For that reason, he's the biggest storyline.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, he's a massive story. I mean, the story of the offseason was how skinny Luka is. What did Luka do? Luka's offseason training was Luka on Ozempic. Like that was the biggest story. So it's the Lakers team. It's Luka, it's LeBron, it's what those two can do. Can the Lakers get back into the postseason? Can the Lakers win a championship? How long is, LeBron's championship window open? But to your point about Cooper Flagg, I think it's a good one. We will tie those two together for a very, very long time. The only way that we will stop talking about those two as, conjoined twins as a duo is if both of these guys and both of these teams have a wild amount of success. Like I felt in the NFL, we talked a lot about Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff, that what those two did, that they were conjoined, they were together. Oh, how does this trade look now because Matthew Stafford's doing this and Jared Goff is doing that? I feel like that's tapered off a lot because Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl with the Rams. Matthew Stafford has had a wild amount of success, and Jared Goff has also had a wild amount of success in Detroit. Now, he hasn't won the big one. He hasn't won a Super Bowl, but the Lions have been knocking on the door of a Super Bowl ever since Jared Goff came to town. Dan Campbell came to town. So if both of these guys have success and they're both on the same trajectory, I think that's how we stop having that conversation. But for now, they're going to be joined. Like if Luka has a crazy, and we're already doing it, right? Luka's skinny in LA. Whoa. What does that mean for Dallas? How dumb does does Dallas look now for making that trade? So until they both find wild amount of success, I think that they will be conjoined for sure.
What is frustrating to me is that I think we're right. And realistically, this is where, the adage for years is like, you don't have to be the most talented musician in the world to be the most popular musician in the world. You don't have to be the best basketball player in the world to be the biggest story. And what's frustrating to me is I watched last night an Oklahoma City team that absolutely moves the ball brilliantly, that has a great combination of size and speed, that's young, that's dynamic, that plays together incredibly well, that crashes with just a level of intensity to every single loose ball, with one of the best players in the world that's absolutely should be the face of a league in SGA. I watched the defending champion last night go out and be a defending champion in a building that was rocking. We're talking about an Eastern Conference that you could either decide to say is down because we don't have the same star power because of the injuries that we've talked about for Boston and Indiana, places like that, or you could turn around and say, oh my God, the opportunity, the doors are open. The Knicks could actually get their way to an NBA championship. Cleveland, as good as they've been in the regular season, as many games as Donovan Mitchell's teams have won, could finally get themselves to a championship. You've got storyline after storyline that's absolutely electric. And the reality of it is, the biggest story in the NBA is going to be Luka and LeBron. Like, it's just what happens. Yeah. There's certain brands that are bigger than everything. And it's no different than the Cowboys. Like, the Lakers are what everybody cares about. And to me, you look at those championship odds and look at the fact that it's Oklahoma City and look at the fact that it's Cleveland. Look at the fact that Denver's up there. The Knicks are up there. Those are great stories. Orlando's going to be, I think, a lot better this year. Like, you just go up and down there's opportunity.
Yeah, the biggest story of the league is not going to be Orlando. I will guarantee you that.
It doesn't matter what Orlando does. Like, you know what? There's a better chance, and this is real. If the Warriors go on an epic run and the Magic go on an epic run, nobody will care about Orlando. Everybody will care about Golden State. It's the burden of the beast with the NBA.
It's big brands and it's big personalities as well. I think another maybe secondary conversation is going to be, independent of all of those things that you just mentioned, all of those wildly fun stories that this past postseason felt like it was the renaissance and the rise of small markets. Minnesota, Cleveland, OKC, Indiana. Like, it was so fun to see these young stars doing it on the biggest stage. That should be a big story. Another one of those stories will be, where is Giannis going? Is Giannis unhappy? Does Giannis want to trade? Does Giannis have a future in Minnesota? Where should Giannis go next? Are the Golden State Warriors interested in Giannis? Like, that will continue to be a conversation. We always want to make it a conversation every single year. We want, as a sports society, Giannis to be out of Milwaukee so badly for some reason, and that'll be independent of all of the great basketball that we're seeing in the West. All of these young rising stars. Can Victor Wembanyama win MVP this year? Those are all secondary to the Giannis, the Luka, the LeBron, the Steph of it all.
Giannis to the Knicks. There we go. Now I've made the biggest story in the NBA. All right. What's your NBA Finals matchup? Give me. Yeah, I don't hate it either. We'll pay attention to it. You see the odds there. Give me your Finals matchup. What do you got for me?
After what I saw from OKC last night, the Thunder are going right back to it. So I will take OKC, and I like your Giannis to the Knicks pick. I will take Knicks to the NBA Finals. They finally break through and get to the NBA Finals after all of these years. Give me OKC and the Knicks in the NBA Finals.
Look, that's a great pick by you. And if Giannis ends up in New York playing for an NBA championship, Oh, first
Sign
take
me
is
up.
going to be insufferable. All right, I'll be a little bit different than that. I just mentioned all the games Cleveland has won. It's stuck in my heart. Maybe this is just pure love and bias. They've won so many games and just haven't been able to break through. The East this year is wide open because of the lack of star power. I'm going to presume that the Celtics don't get fully healthy by the playoffs, which would change all of this. But I will say that
Totally.
Cleveland goes in and they take on, I think, yet again, we sleep on the greatness. The best player in the league is still Jokic. So I'm going Cleveland versus
True.
Denver. Best player in the West, best team in the East. But I do like your pick a lot. I think the fact that you could make the compelling case for either of those series is part of what makes the league great this year.
100%. That I think there is a fair argument to be made. Even Houston. Like, why not Houston based off of what we saw last night? It was so fun.
We'll keep breaking it down all week. Come back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. More Yahoo Sports Daily.